colleagues and dear postgraduate students. I stand proxy for my team, which is inclusive of Professor Anotu, Deji-Agboola, and Professor S.A. Bankole. And if there is any lacuna in the presentation, two of them would help to fill the void. My team has been saddled with the responsibility of talking about developing and presenting the research proposal. And this next slide would reveal to us what we'll be talking about. And we have labeled that as anatomy of the research proposal. We'll look at the following in detail within the time allotted. But one thing that is very instructive is that for you to be able to write a good research proposal, there are some personal attributes you must not be short in. Those personal attributes must be necessarily present in you, or you must have them or develop them before you can talk of engaging in the act of writing your research, developing and presenting your research proposal. And what are those personal attributes? You need to be motivated. You must have motivation in large quantum. If you have applied for a postgraduate program, either a master's degree or a PhD degree, you must have achievement motivation. You must be driven to want to complete that work within the time that has been stipulated. I've heard from the Provost Postgraduate School about the flowchart, and that flowchart, beginning from this section, will be religiously administered or implemented by the university administration. So it is important that you must have motivation. You must have the courage to want to do the needful, and you must be confident that you can do it. You must also have cognitive intelligence and emotional intelligence needed to prosecute the research that you are proposing to undertake. You must also be very creative. You must be ready, because issues related to postgraduate is about adding to knowledge, contributing to knowledge. In fact, there are some theses in some faculties where contribution to knowledge is a subtopic on its own. Whereas in some other faculties, this is subsumed in paragraph. It does not necessarily have a title. But any work that you are doing that's not going to contribute to knowledge, that is not novel, or that you are not doing what has been done before in a new way, which is innovative competence, the act of innovation, then you can't engage in the research proposal. And finally, you must be motivated to want to succeed. The difference between champions and losers is in their habits. Those who achieve success are not necessarily gifted, but there are people who work smart and who work hard. So if you have success at the back of your mind, then you can be sure doing a research proposal, which will eventually lead to research work or research activities, would not be a problem. You can go to the next slide. How do you now create the ambience? How do you create the context for your research proposal? I have just talked about the personal attributes, but let me be more academic here when we talk about the personal attributes. So we're going to talk about the personal attributes again, just a little more, and then dwell on the academic attributes that you need, or some rhetoric questions you need to ask yourself and answer them truthfully. First, you must ask yourself the question: in what you want to do, will it deliver on your personal goals? will it allow you to show off your capability? How many others have researched and are still researching in the area you are proposed to work on? And then is there a room for one more? Because if you keep doing what others are doing and you're not doing it in a new way, you can be accused of plagiarism, or people will say you're not, what you are doing is not novel, you're not contributing to knowledge. So you can't waste my time, and you can find the supervisor who put a perpendicular line. Or if it's not, it's for a one supervisor or supervisors. In some universities, at the point of entry, you may have been denied admission to run the program simply because of a poor research proposal. So you must ask yourself what you want to do. What have others done? What are they doing? Is there a room for one more? Is it that there is still something from what you have seen in the gap? The other time you heard about literature review. Have you identified a gap that you can still fill, that is making that variable you want to work on very contemporary? 2, does this topic have a value dimension? Is this an area contested by academic researchers? Will your values predispose you to one position already, even before you start the journey of undertaking it with your proposal? How will your own framework that you are advocating, how will it change or create a level of neutrality so that the outcome that you generate from the proposal you are doing will be acceptable to a wide range of researchers, and it will be capable of influencing people who have not yet taken it? Because the beauty of academics is that when there are researches ongoing, there will be positions, the leftists, the rightists, and the neutrals. So what will your own proposal, what will it contribute? Are you going to be aligning, or you are going to be different? Are you daring to be different from what has been established? And that brings us to the real question: what is a research proposal? Let me start by saying that sometimes my students will say, Prof, are you a magician? How do you know that we are copying? I'm talking about my undergraduate students. You know, when I ask them to go and bring areas they want to work on, go and do a proposal, they will come back 2 or 3 days after. And there are some things they will write out loud. You know, a proposal that has an abstract. A proposal that is written in past tense. And it's a proposal. So as soon as they come, what I do is to underline some things and say, please go and bring the original where you want to copy this for. I said, sir, I didn't copy. I said, you have one more chance to tell the truth. He said, I didn't want to copy you, but my friends. He said, but how do you know, sir? I said, come, your proposal. Proposal, that's an abstract. An abstract is supposed to be a summary of the work you have done. So how can a proposal have an abstract? And then say, come and see here. I collected what you have not done. So when you talk about a research proposal, it's a proposal to conduct a research. It sounds monotonous, Abi, but there's an explanation there. It is a proposal to conduct a research. It does not involve the collection of data. And of course, it is written before the study is actually conducted. So how can you be writing in the past tense? So most proposals should be written in futuristic tenses. A proposal also allows opportunities to obtain feedback from departments, supervisors before the implementation of the study, which can of course be used to improve the proposed study. A proposal also gives the researcher the opportunity to identify and address any ethical issues that are raised by the proposed study. Because from the point of proposal, you will know that there are ethical issues, and you will have put in place procedures to one thing that you would want to get to navigate the ethical dimensions of issues that are raised from the proposal. There are some institutions that when you write your proposal, they will also ask you to, even without starting the work, to go and get ethical approval that that work is doable. Some they will allow you to even start, and then you get to the area of methodology or collection of data, particularly they will ask you, go and get approval. But some universities, they won't allow you on some work. You won't even have to start. Before you start at all, ethically, is it doable? Can it be done? There are some people in university that will ask you, for instance, to go and do some crash courses on ethical issues before they will have to even issue you a certificate before you can conduct that study. So, a research proposal helps graduate students develop knowledge and skills required for writing an article for publication. So you can see the beauty of it. It's not just about the research you want to conduct, but it also has futuristic value. Because if you're able to propose and your proposal comes out good, it also means that, remember now, our university have also started that about 2 sessions ago. So it has always been there, but I think the implementation actually started since last session. Now, before you can do your oral, you must have been seen to have discussed some of the content of your findings in global audience via publications, either in the national or an international journal. So, what are the constituents or ingredients of a good proposal? The first one is that there is this title page. Every good proposal must have a title page. Now we are talking about proposal for the conduct of master's and PhD degrees. But also remember that while you are doing the proposal, though the intent is to get a master's or a PhD degree, also know that that same proposal can even earn you funding for the work you have not started. I remember I was lucky during my first degree. That was the time we have the refugees at OOU, very close to us here. And my first degree project topic was evaluating guidance and counseling services in OOU refugee camp. So my supervisor told me to go there. And when I looked at what they have there, I did a proposal and I told my supervisor, sir, I think we can get money to fund this research. I said, and he was like, what do you mean? I said, yes, sir. The OOU refugee camp is not actually owned by Nigeria government. No, the Nigerian government provided that space. But it's an international organization. It's the United Nations High Commission for Refugees that funds the place. And so if we are helping them to evaluate the services that we conduct there, so we can make money. He said, that's true. And I said, go and do a proposal. The proposal I asked him to do before was for what I want to write. But I not did that proposal. I got a letter from the Vice Chancellor there to support that proposal, and we sent it to African Human Rights Refugee Foundation. They were on Mount Balaji Bankole Way by late S.C. Olushola, the village ambassador. He was the chairman of that one. I will also sent it to the United Nations High Commission for Refugees in Nigeria. We got $100. It was a lot of money there. So doing the research was easy because we have funding. So what we are saying is that sometimes your header, your title is very important. Your title page. It can be inviting, it can attract not just the approval of the supervisor, it can also attract funding. So when you pick a title that is catchy, that is measurable, that is doable, and that falls within the number of words that postgraduate school have approved. And in our case, yeah, I think it's 23 or 21, I think it's 21, but I think depending on what you want to write. But the postgraduate prospectus will always tell you how many words that you are expected to have. So the title page should contain the header, which should compose of the first of 2-3 words that we have in the title. 21 words now. Yes. Maximum of 21 words. So most have 21. So it's very important. The title page should have a header, should have a running head. Just like if you look at some publication in the journal, you know what to call a running head. though it is used in publication, but it's also required in proposal. So it's like an abbreviation of the title. You should not exceed 50 characters in length, and it must be typed in capital letters. The running head sometimes can also be the same as your header. Aside from that, you now have the title of the proposal and then your author's name and qualifications. So if you are running a PhD and you have hand the first degree and master's, it is expected to take that there. After that, in every good research proposal, you must have an introduction. Professor Makun the other time briefly talked about what introduction is. For us, we believe that introduction is a brief, integrated summary of the findings of previous research. Because the introduction was able to explain the key concepts in type, the variables, and the ideas you are trying to convey to your audience or your proposed audience. Don't make a personal case, and that's what most of us try to do from my experience. No, make the intellectual case for doing the research, for wanting to do that research. Don't make a personal case. You can use personal case to state what you are saying, but your case should arise from intellectual. It should be on intellectual basis. Gaps in literature, things you have seen that have not been done or that have been done that have not been effective. That you are thinking that what you are doing in an innovative way bring to bear on new pathways or frontiers to expand what has been done. And in this case, you can cite and you can use statistics or contextual information that will be able to justify the position you are trying to build. Also, in your introduction, it's expected that proposal you do or you give a rationale for wanting to do that research. You have to be consistent. The kind of rationale that you give to consistently and steadily lead to a statement of the aims of your research and to the hypothesis. Some people will ask, what is aim? What is hypothesis? Your aims are broad. What you want to achieve, what you think that study can achieve. Not necessarily measuring. It can be something you want, you see it in another 10 years, that this study will contribute this way. You are aiming that it can be so, that it will be an evergreen study. But specifically, what do you want to achieve, and that's what your synthesis will help you to delineate. And that has to be specific and measurable. Or like your aims that can be broad or nebulous. You can, at the point of introduction, also give or espouse theories, theoretical matters that are pertinent to your research. But it's not a place that you do theoretical explanations like you have under the literature. No. But there are some theories that are very fundamental, very key to explaining your background. At this point, you can also mention it and integrate it introduction. Once your introduction is fine, it will normally, naturally, dovetail into your statement of the problem. State the problem. What students do at times, most postgraduate students turn the statement of the problem to another literature review or with another introduction. No. At the level of stating the purpose, you are just stating it. Even though there are no universal templates for writing purpose statements, but one thing that is universally agreed is that the statement must be written clearly, unambiguously, and concisely. It must be succinct, because you are stating the problem. It must not be ambiguous in any way. And statements can be qualitative or quantitative. You can have qualitative and quantitative purpose statements. The two are not written in the same manner. Quantitative studies, if you are in background in quantitative studies, quantitative studies usually would clearly describe the variables that will be investigated. But when it comes to qualitative studies, it will only acknowledge the emerging nature of the questions or the topic you are interrogating. And why is it that it's an emerging one? The researcher should explain that As this study progresses, if there are new developments, the topic can still be tinkered with. The variable can still be tinkered with. The questions you have raised, remember it's a proposal, you have not started. But you can start, and there will be new developments in that area they are researching into. You have to incorporate it. You cannot say because you have started, therefore, you cannot be part of what you want to do. It's a qualitative study. And that's why, right in your proposal, you will have stated it there. That this study is contemporary. People are interrogating it. So as this work goes on, if there are things that showcases itself that sounds novel, you might be tinkering with the question, you may be adding, you may be deleting depending on the new knowledge that evolves. It will have been stated at the issue in your proposal. So by then you go on with the work and you tell the supervisor, there are some emerging things in this area we're investigating. I want to add this. You cannot say no, you cannot introduce. You remind me, instead my proposal is yes. And you cite authorities to back. You will joyfully say, okay, go on. And then every good research proposal must have literature review. Prof have talked about literature review, but there is an aspect we would like to talk to you about, which many of us don't do. How many of us is sincere? Hello? Are we here? Even those joining online. Please, if you are registered with our library to access our library, e-resources, do like this. In this hall, only one person. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we have about 8 out of those of us there. Those online, I don't know if the ICT can help us. Don't know how many numbers, but don't worry. But what I'm saying, statistically, is that less than 10% of our students are registered. And I can tell you for free, give me some academics here. As the director of quality assurance for this university, I am privileged to know that the time we're doing accreditation of some programs in the last few months, that this university have the best, one of, if not the best in Nigeria, in terms of electronic library. And I say that for free because it's what things said by NUC accreditation for more than 25 programs. They said in our university, we don't have half of it. We are subscribed to some of the best databases you can think of in the world. And you are here, you are paying school fees, you are not taking advantage. You are struggling to use your own phone to go on Google. You are not doing something serious. The PhD student are not doing is go to Google until you can find it. You are wasting your time. If you are a master's student, you are wasting your time. When you want to do research review, please, I beg of you. This university pays millions every year for books, electronic books. The strength of this university, when people come, when NUC comes for accreditation, is that we are proud to always showcase that we are one of the best, if not the best in Nigeria. And you want to find out, please, feel free when after this presentation to go to the library and see. So if you want to do literature review as a postgraduate student, the first place to start is the library. And you don't have to go there wondering. No. When you get to the library, please ask for the man called or woman called reference librarian. That's all there. That's all a reference librarian. The reference librarian will ask you, which area do you want to research? You just suppose that, and as soon as you give him or her the thing, he will tell you, how many do you want? You will be surprised that the thing you are choosing to work on, there are over 1 million books in the last 5 years of that subject area. Google won't give you that. It won't. So we are encouraging you that in writing your research proposal, please know that you are expected to do an overview of published journal articles, records, books, documents, and other professional work that's related to your topic. And you can get all this for free. And that's the most interesting part of Hello being free. And when you get to the library, you will also be given the link. So you don't have to come here. So in the comfort of your homes, you can access this library as soon or as long as you are connected to the net. How many of us don't take such advantage? And remember, in your literature, particularly your empirical research and articles and theoretical articles, make sure that what you are reviewing does not go beyond 5 years, except where or what you are talking about has to do with theoretical expositions. Even if it's 1770, you are allowed to use that. But apart from things that are theoretical in nature, you are expected to cite only research that are conducted within the last 5 years. And why is that so at the point of proposal? Because your work is expected to take at least 3 years minimum as a full-time student and 4 years as a part-time student. So it means that before you finish, some of those situations would have even become what? Outdated. And you are expected, and that's why PhD work, particularly PhD work, is reviewed periodically. It's not over until it's over. Even the day you do your oral, the panel of the examiner can still say, go and do this, go and do that. But if at the point of proposal, they are already using the situations that were used during Uncle Park's time, people cited relation 1970, 1980, 1990, 2010, 2015, we're in 2024. It means that by the time you even start the work is already what? Okay. So please make sure that you cite recent, relevant, and contemporary literature. And that will take us to research hypothesis. Irrespective of the faculty that you have, the hypothesis is cited either using the norm or their alternate means. Of course, the norm hypothesis is when you state your hypothesis, in enough form, and then proposing that your findings, whether disputes, whether confirm or negate what you have done. Or you cite your hypothesis which has been a faculty that allows that you state it in concrete form and not, and then hoping that what you find out will negate it. For experimental causal comparative correlational studies, hypothesis should always be accompanied by operational definition of those variables that you want to investigate. Because this will indicate how those variables will be measured and manipulated. Even though in some faculties, you have operational definition of terms separately. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying bring that into your hypothesis. No. But you must state it so that you already know where you are going. But in all types of qualitative research, such as case studies, historical research, and the likes, research questions, particularly foreshadowed kind of questions, which are not your actual questions, but we call them foreshadowed questions because they are also questions that will help to accentuate your research very well when you start, because they will help you to guide you in terms of the interview you want to conduct, and of course, if it's an observational technique that you want to use to collect your data, such foreshadowed question will also help. As soon as you are done with your, sorry, that seems to be very fast, so sorry. So I think I've just run through. Now let's go to methodology. Now, in every research proposal, methodology is very important. And methodology is, what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? There at the beginning, you make your design, right from the beginning of the methodology. Your design, if it's going to be an experimental, quasi-experimental, descriptive, historical, qualitative, or mixed method research, you would have stated that issue. So anybody who wants to look at your work already knows what you want to do. Participants, what is the nature and characteristics of the subjects? Average age, their gender, and so on. The number of people that will participate, or it's an experimental study that involves animals. How many animals? How many research assistants are you going to be using? Or what you call proctors? Are you going to pay them or not? I've stated all of this. Then your apparatus and materials, equipment, instruments. How many activities to be completed? How do you record participants' responses? Then the instrument you want to use. Are they standardized instruments? Or are they self-developed instruments? If they are self-developed, are you going to ensure psychometric properties of the instruments? or what are you going to do? You must also determine the research set in your proposal. It's very important. Where will you get the data from? What will participants actually do during the research questions? And very importantly, remember, ethical issues that may occur or that may be required. Issues relating to confidentiality, disclosure, informed consent, then offering inducement. Hello, let me just quickly explain that offering inducement. Sometimes when we conduct, some of us offer inducement to our participants. But when it comes to writing the research report later, we will not mention it. Even though globally, they are not expected to offer inducement. But again, when you offer inducement, as long as the inducement that you have offered will not likely affect the outcome of the study that you are conducting, it is allowed. But not that you now write, I bought them Coke, so that you will not run away. I bought biscuit and I gave them rice. No. There are better ways you can say bad things. We all know that attrition rates could happen. It could happen even faster. But there are things you can do, token reinforcement, without them everything necessary to be money. Then, in your research proposal, it's very important in your methodology that you mention how you want to analyze the result that you get. Which statistical tool are you going to be using? And at what level of significance are you going to accept the results? What are the estimated things and budget? Finally, what are the benefits, limitations, and reflections of the research you intend to conduct? It's very important. Many of us, when you do our proposal, you just don't even bother about it. Because remember that in the research report, there are two areas that these benefits normally shows. One, significance of the study. Two, contribution to knowledge. There are just two subheadings in the research report. So in your proposal, right from the beginning, mention the likely benefits of that your intended study. How will the study advance knowledge for practice and for what? For policy making. And you should do summary of the possible implications of your findings. Also, state in your proposal the likely limitations that the study may have in terms of methodological limitations and possible criticism. Not that there will be no money to go and conduct the result and research. I don't have money to enter transport. No, those are not the kind of limitations I'm talking about. But we should talk about the methodological and possible criticism. When you look at most findings, there is no finding that has been cast in iron. And that is why it can endure for a long time. But in view of new findings, old knowledge becomes what? Moribund. And always remember that you are also supposed to give references. Please, in your research proposal, references is very important. If you have consulted literature, please cite the references. And this university, I think the APA 7th edition is what you should cite. And then finally, in your research proposal, you should please attach appendices. It's very important. If there are researcher developed tools that you would be doing or you will be making use of, the time to mention them or include them is now. You put them at the back. Each appendix should also be given a letter lapel. Let me conclude by saying that as a postgraduate student, you might get frustrated, mad as hell, short-tempered with your spouse, skills and pecs as you write your proposal. Because the job is asking, but you will overcome. Eventually, you have a draft narrative. Set it aside for a few days. Go back and read it so that it makes sense. Subject it to grammarly check online. Check for typos and inconsistencies. Once you do that, you will have seen that you have done a good job of research. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for